Starting and running a business is hard, but you don't have to do it alone. Whether you're an established business owner or thinking about starting a side hustle to earn extra income, I am here to teach you how to show up as your unfiltered self, level up your business, and thrive as a mompreneur. Let's embrace the chaos and start enjoying the journey together. I'm Amy Traw, and you're listening to the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Welcome back into the Motivated Mompreneur Podcast. Today, we are talking content strategies and how to create one that doesn't feel so overwhelming, because overwhelm is a very real thing, and you get overwhelmed for too long and you end up burnt out. Not good. None of us mamas have time for that. So super excited to welcome in my guest for today. Mollie, welcome into the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm really excited to see what you have to say about this because, we all need some more strategy to make our lives less overwhelming for sure. But before we dive in, can you tell us more about yourself, who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So I am Mollie Marrocco. I'm a business coach and marketing strategist, and I work primarily with creative entrepreneurs to help them come up with a content strategy that feels good to them and attracts the clients they want to attract so they can create more income and impact.
Oh, love it. Because at the end of the day, we want income. We want to make an impact. So you marry those two things together. Yeah, we need you in our corner, Mollie. So tell us, where do we even start? Let's start super broad. What is a content strategy?
So basically, the way that I start things with my client is we have to figure out who they're talking to, because a lot of times people have like some kind of nebulous idea of like, this is the person that I'm talking to. And I think this is what they're struggling with, but they haven't actually written it down. So what ends up happening is that they say different things every time instead of having one clear, concise message that they can just go back to over and over. So I help them figure out who they're talking to first, and then we build a content strategy, meaning we come up with kind of the different pillars that we want to talk about, the different topics, the different types of topics that will resonate with my clients or with their audience, So we go through that process to really figure out how they can create something in terms of the cadence of what they're posting, like the types of content, just all of that, like what is doable for them. And then we kind of give them a plan so that they know exactly what to do. Because I feel like half the time the reason that we're not creating is because we don't know what to say, and then we second guess ourselves, and then we just waste time, and then we feel bad about wasting time, and then we're just like, screw it, not doing any of it.
Yeah, exactly. You hit the nail on the head. And once you are so clear on who you are talking to, it makes everything so much easier. And I see that all the time with my clients too. It's just, we're not clear. We don't even know who we're talking to. So if we don't know who we're talking to, how can we even begin to help get them to what they desire and what they want? And I love too how you talked about making a strategy that's doable for them, because I think so often, especially as moms, we get into consumption mode and we're seeing what everybody else is doing, and we're not actually stopping to consider like what season of life we're in. Because if you have a newborn at home, it's going to be a heck of a lot different strategy than someone with in my position where I have both of my kids in school all day. So you really have to know what's doable for you, because when it's doable for you, it's sustainable. I think that's
Yeah.
so important to keep in mind.
No, that's really true. And I think too, like with a lot of my clients, I always say to them, the best strategy is the one you're actually going to do. So I'm not going to give you something that you are not going to do, because then you feel defeated before you even get to the place of actually executing on anything. And so again, that's where it's just not sustainable for you. But I think also like looking at people who are just pumping out content, those people have teams of people, multiple people for different platforms. So, you look at like kind of like the big people who are out there and they've got, huge presences and millions of followers. They are not doing that themselves. And more importantly, they are spending tens of thousands of dollars every month just to have someone else do it for them.
Yes. And I am so thankful that you brought that up, because again, we get stuck in comparison mode. We're like, oh, they make it look so easy because they have a team behind them. But every single one of us, we started at zero. And when you have that strategy to get you through the one you're going to do, like you said, that's where you grow. That's where you put in the reps, put in the work. The consistency is what will get you to the results. I love it. So, how do we go about creating this strategy that will work for us?
That's a good question. So, if I'm talking about how I'm doing it with my clients, again, we're going to do a messaging blueprint. We're going to figure out who they're talking to, and then we're going to take that. And so I feel like kind of part of my magic is that I can like look at someone and what they do and who they want to talk to and be like, I know exactly what you have to do for your content. Here's an idea. Here's another idea. I had a hypnotherapist client who she had like a really great piece of content. She's like, it's just not doing well. And like, it should be doing better. And so I went in and I looked at it. I was like, you haven't told people why they need to be paying attention to this and like what the stakes are and what they'll get out of it. She made that one switch. It started going viral. So I feel like, figuring that out for you and then having someone, whether it's me or someone else, just bouncing ideas off of that can kind of look at your business. I think it's so hard for us to look at our own businesses. It's so hard for me, and then this is what I do, to look at it and be like, okay, these are the things that I'm going to talk about. This is how I can talk about it. You kind of need that distance and you need that sounding board. So if you are going to attempt to do it yourself, I would really like, this kind of sounds a little woo woo, but I would spend some time kind of like meditating on like, what am I drawn to in terms of content? Like, what kind of content resonates with me and would feel natural for me to create? Maybe it's day in the life vlogs. Maybe it's more like face to camera educational content, whatever feels like it just naturally flows out of you. Like, start there. And then in terms of like what you're saying, again, once you figure out who your client is and what they're struggling with, you can really just kind of talk about like, how they're feeling about that. Because I think, we look at it and we're kind of always talking about how we can help people. But I think there's a lot that can happen when we empathize with people and share their struggle and kind of like go at it from that angle. And those are really simple things to do.
Those are fabulous, fabulous tips. And so many things you just said really resonated with me, especially, just having somebody to be there as the sounding board, just to brainstorm with, because I think a lot of times we get wrapped up in our emotions and then we feel defeated. And just having someone there with just an objective perspective can make all the difference. And self awareness, whether it be woo or not, I mean, I really think it's important as a business owner that you have that ability to know exactly like, okay, what do you want this business to look like? This is your business. But giving yourself that permission to look inward and really feel like, okay, what resonates with me? I think that's great advice because you think about it, so often we're serving our clients that are almost past versions of ourselves because what we're doing is we're solving a big problem that we had. So you take the time to get super clear on that. And absolutely, I see how that would totally make sense and work. And two, you brought in the empathy piece. I mean, I think as humans, now more than ever, we're craving connection. And to know that somebody sees you, that they can relate and have that empathy for the struggles you're facing. And then, yeah, the solution's kind of the byproduct. I mean, that right
Right.
there is beautiful.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the people who I've seen do this really well, like there's two people that immediately come to mind for me. And I just remember like coming across their content and being like, how are you in my head? Like what you're saying is exactly how I feel. But the difference is like they put words to it that I almost didn't have. And that's where, as business owners, really like listening to what people are saying on like a discovery call, or even if let's say that your audience isn't very vocal, you can go to someone who is kind of maybe a little bit ahead of you or where you want to be and look at their comment section, look at what people are saying, look at what they're struggling with, and then you take kind of the things that are coming up over and over that resonate with you and you use those exact words in your messaging. Like that's like one of the great ways to do it. But yeah, I just think like we need to be able to speak to people in a way that gives language to a problem that they know that they have like in their body almost, but they don't always know how to speak it out. That's when you have people who will just buy from you no matter what because they're like, oh my god, you get me. I didn't even get
Right.
me and you get
Right, exactly like you said, it's like they're in your head. They know what your struggles are before you can even articulate that you have a struggle. Whether that be with, problem awareness content, different things. But yeah, you are using those words. You are listening. And it's so noisy out there that I feel like so many times we've lost the ability to listen. So that's such a great tip to just to even go through the comments and see what other people are saying. Write down those little snippets from discovery calls that people are bringing to the table and use that verbiage. Use that in your marketing. Again, we need to be working smarter, not harder.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, once we've really honed in our messaging, how do we create that consistent strategy that's not overwhelming for us? Because I think it's easy to get started. Like, once you start, it's like, okay, I've got all this motivation, but then motivation fades away. We all know it goes away. So, how do we make it sustainable?
That's a great question. So I think first is like really being real with yourself about like what your capacity is. So if it's just that you can create one piece of short form video content per week, like one reel, one TikTok, whatever it is, do that and do it every week. The consistency, as you were saying earlier, is going to compound. And the other thing is that like it feels, there's two things. It feels overwhelming to like start this process, but as you do it, you will get quicker, you will get better, it will move faster. At the same time that that happens, then your motivation kind of wanes and you're like, crap. So I think one of my biggest things is like, I batch stuff because I feel like that's super helpful for me. The other thing is like I work with a strategist to help me with my own content because again, as I was saying, I need someone outside of myself to like just mirror stuff back to me. So I know for myself, I have coaches in so many areas of my life because I need someone that I am accountable to. So even if it's just like, I know I can do this and I'm just not doing it, then outsmart yourself. Like I had to outsmart myself in so many areas of my life. And I knew, okay, I'm a people pleaser. Fine. I know that about myself. I can work on that. But also, why don't I leverage that? Why don't I get a coach who I'm not going to want to disappoint, who's going to like hold my feet to the fire and keep me accountable so that like I'm doing the things that I need to do. And it's been incredibly helpful. Like that's been a game changer. That's why I've been so consistent pretty much all of 2023 because I have had like, okay, you have a new batch of content that you have to create. Let's look at what you already created. I'm like, oh God. So, that's really helpful too. But again, being real about where you are, committing to what you can commit to, because the other thing that will happen as well is once you're keeping those promises to yourself, you are going to start to trust yourself more. You're going to start to have more confidence in yourself, and you're going to start to be like, okay, I did one. Why don't we try two? Maybe just 1 week out of the month, I'm going to do 2 videos. And then you do that, and then you're like, okay. And that, like, just that like internal momentum that you create can really also carry you because I don't think that we always realize how draining it is to beat ourselves up for what we're not doing. And when we can kind of turn that around a little bit and like use that energy in a different way, like that can be huge.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Molly. I feel like that was a total mic drop moment and just really being real with knowing what your capacity is. I mean, that right there, we love to tell ourselves stories. But once we get real, and a great way to do that is with a coach, with a mentor, somebody that will see those blind spots that we're not seeing. I mean, we tend to make things about ourselves and it's like, no, it's just identifying those blind spots. And when if you're not even aware of a problem with your content, with your messaging, with how you're coming off, you're not going to be able to fix it. You're not going to be able to collapse time. And that's where I really think that that is a missing piece of a lot of the puzzle is that you don't even know what you don't know. So having a coach, having a mentor in your space is so key. And then, just, yeah, keeping promises to yourself, starting small, really knowing, okay, you got real with what your realistic capacity is, but then keeping those promises to yourself. That's where those changes are going to occur. And I mean, I think this is true even outside of business. When you're trying to just make a lifestyle change. It's not an all or nothing mentality that we always think that it is. It's not that you've decided you're going to, all right, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. And by eating healthy for one day, that's not going to make you lose 10 pounds. It's all of those little things. It's all those little promises you keep to yourself. Like, okay, this week I'm going to commit to working out twice this week because I know right now I'm working out none. So at least, okay, I can do 2 days out of the 7. And then you get good at that. You keep those promises and then you add in another day and another day. It's the same with your content. Your business can be run like your life. Keep those promises to yourself. You owe it to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great point of like, do not bite off more than you can chew. Do not set yourself up to fail like before you even start, because that is so defeating. And there's so many of us for various reasons that will do that. Like some people struggle to even start because they're like, oh my gosh, this feels too overwhelming. And some people will start and then they kind of like peter off right when they can see the finish line. And it's like, you're right there. So know yourself, like know yourself in business and know where you're going to trip yourself up, and then kind of like pull people or things or strategies or systems in place so that you have to outsmart yourself. We all know like business is 80% mindset, but it's so, so true.
It really is. I cannot agree more with that because, yeah, it is. It's knowing yourself, knowing what makes you tick, and how you can set yourself up for success and doing the things that Mollie has talked to you today about. It will. It will. Like, get real. Get a mentor in your corner. Even if you can't have a coach, have a mentor, ask a friend. Have somebody look at your things that will give it to you straight. You don't want the friend that makes you feel like, okay, she's never going to tell you like it's your content sucks, but it does. You need that friend that's going to give you the tough love because that's where your opportunity lies. That's where you can improve yourself and really grow your business and start thriving and create those content strategies that work for you without
Yeah.
the overwhelm.
Yeah.
Oh,
And actually, what's the other thing I just wanted to add, which is more of like a little tactical tip, is to leverage what you're doing. So if you are creating a video on TikTok or a reel, like some piece of short form video content, you should be taking that. You should be putting it. So let's say we create a TikTok. We need to put it on Reels. We need to put it on YouTube Shorts. We need to put it on Pinterest as an idea pin. We can put it on LinkedIn. There are all these different places. Do not create one piece of content and let it live in that one place. That is like, just like let's maximize it. So there's great tools. There's repurpose.io, which is a really great tool that will do this process for you. So for me, like I have my TikToks and I send them over to Reels. I go into repurpose. I just change up the caption a little bit. I hit publish, done. I mean, it literally takes me less than a minute every day just to do one. So utilize the tools that are available to you. There's a ton of really great ones and great ways to do that. But please, I'm begging you, do not just create one piece of content and then like let it die, because that's where it feels overwhelming. But you're like, okay, I put in, 2 hours this week creating content, but that actually created content for me on 4 different platforms and generated more awareness and leads and things like that in multiple places. So yeah, that's like, I want to pass that along because that's a really, really important tip, I think, in order to, grow your brand, but not grow the effort that you're putting into that.
yeah, yeah, exactly. We need to start working smarter, not harder. And let's harness the power of technology because there is so much available. I mean, even for me, I've been using Magic Write and Chat GPT for just if I get stuck brainstorming ideas, just
Yeah.
for ideas. It's not like I'm taking the caption off of there because half the time I'm like, this doesn't even sound like me. No, I'm not going to use this. But if you get stuck, if you just need some ideas, use technology to schedule different things. There's so many different ways you can begin to work smarter, not harder. So yeah, definitely check out that website repurpose.io, correct? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Use it, leverage it, work smarter, and you will save yourself time and sanity and frustration over it all. Mollie, this was awesome. Thank you so much for all of these just actionable steps and tangible takeaways today. We really do appreciate your time, your value, everything you've done for us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I have a free resource. I have a ultimate brand messaging bundle. It has 30 content prompts. It has an ebook and a video training with the 10 mistakes you're probably making with your messaging and how to fix them. So I know I will give you the link. So the link can be in the show notes for people so they can sign up to get that. And you guys can find me. My business name is Branded with a Purpose, and I'm on Instagram and TikTok as well as YouTube, but I'm probably not as, active on YouTube and Pinterest, but you can definitely find me, chat with me, let me know you heard the episode on either Instagram or TikTok, wherever you like to hang out. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
Oh my gosh, you were such a great guest. Thank you so much for sharing your value. And until next time, stop dreaming and start taking messy action. You've got this. Are you loving what you're hearing? Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss an episode.